In the vast emptiness of space, something strange appeared. It was a warship, sleek and massive, gliding silently near Earth's orbit. The ship looked human-made, with sharp edges and metallic surfaces that gleamed faintly in the sunlight. But there was something odd about it. No flags, no symbols, nothing to show who it belonged to. It wasn't like any ship the United Nations Space Command, UNSC, had ever seen before. Captain Laura Hayes stood on the bridge of her vessel, staring at the screen showing the mysterious ship. Her crew was tense, their eyes glued to their stations. They had been sent to investigate, but none of them felt comfortable getting too close. "What do you think, Lieutenant?" Laura asked, turning to Ryan Cole, her second in command. Ryan hesitated for a moment. "It looks human, ma'am, but it doesn't feel right." His voice carried a hint of unease. He wasn't wrong. Something about the ship gave off an unsettling vibe, like it didn't belong here. Or maybe it did, but not in a way anyone could understand yet. Laura nodded. "Keep us steady, and maintain radio silence until we know more." She wanted to be cautious. If this was some kind of trap, she didn't want to give whoever was aboard the advantage. Slowly, her ship moved closer, its engines humming softly. The mysterious warship loomed larger as they approached, its size making even their heavily armed cruiser look small by comparison. The ship's surface was smooth, almost flawless. There were no visible weapons or docking bays, which struck Laura as strange. Warships usually bristled with guns and missile launchers, ready for battle. This one seemed different, almost peaceful, if such a thing were possible for a machine designed for war. Still, appearances could be deceiving. "Anything on sensors?" Laura asked Megan Doyle, the ship's engineer. Megan was hunched over her console, her fingers flying across the controls. She shook her head after a moment. "Nothing unusual, Captain. No heat signatures, no energy readings. It's dead." Laura frowned. A ship floating in space without power. That didn't make sense. Either it was abandoned, or someone was hiding something. She decided to take a closer look. "Bring us within 500 meters. Let's see if we can scan its hull." As they drew nearer, the mood on the bridge grew heavier. Everyone was quiet, holding their breath as if the ship might suddenly spring to life. Then, just as they reached the designated distance, something happened. Lights flickered on across the mysterious warship's surface. Bright, piercing beams illuminated sections of its hull, revealing intricate designs etched into the metal. At the same time, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the cruiser. "What's going on?" Ryan asked sharply, his hand hovering over the weapon's controls. Laura held up a hand to calm him. "Wait, let's see what happens next." A few seconds later, a transmission crackled through the speakers. It was faint at first, then grew clearer. A man's voice came through, deep and confident. "This is Commander Alex Carter of the Eclipse. We are here to reclaim what was lost." The words sent a chill down Laura's spine. Reclaim what? Before she could respond, the Eclipse began deploying drones. Small, insect-like machines shot out from hidden compartments on the ship's surface, zipping toward Laura's cruiser. One of them hovered dangerously close to their weapons array, its tiny cameras scanning every detail. "That's enough," Ryan muttered under his breath, his finger twitching over the trigger. Laura stopped him again. "Hold your fire. Let's not provoke them until we know more." But inside, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that they were dealing with something far bigger and far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The drones from the Eclipse continued to circle Laura's cruiser, their movements precise and deliberate. Each one seemed to be scanning every inch of the ship, as if cataloging its weaknesses. Lieutenant Ryan Cole clenched his fists at his station, his jaw tight with frustration. "Captain," he said in a low voice, "we can't let them keep doing this. If they find a weak spot, we're sitting ducks." Laura Hayes stood firm, her eyes fixed on the screen showing the swarm of drones. She understood Ryan's concern, but she also knew acting rashly could escalate the situation. "Hold your position," she ordered calmly. "We don't know their intentions yet. Let's not give them a reason to attack." Her words did little to ease the tension on the bridge. Megan Doyle, the engineer, was already analyzing the data being collected by the drones. Her fingers moved quickly over her console, trying to track their movements and predict their next step. "They're mapping us," she said finally, looking up at Laura. "Every system, every weapon. We're completely exposed." Laura nodded grimly. The Eclipse had the upper hand, and they all knew it. But before anyone could suggest a plan, the transmission crackled again. Commander Alex Carter's voice came through, calm but commanding. "Captain Hayes, I assume you are in command of this vessel. We mean no harm, but we cannot allow interference with our mission. Please stand down." Laura exchanged a glance with Ryan. His expression said it all. "This guy's full of it." Still, she kept her tone neutral as she replied, "Commander Carter, we have questions. Your ship appeared without warning, and now you're scanning us without permission. You'll forgive us if we're cautious." There was a brief pause on the other end. Then Carter spoke again. "Fair enough. Perhaps we can meet face to face. I'd like to explain our presence and our purpose." Laura hesitated. Meeting with Carter carried risks, but refusing might provoke him into taking more aggressive action. She glanced at Ryan, who gave a slight nod, though his skepticism was clear. Finally, she made her decision. "Agreed. Send your coordinates, and we'll arrange a meeting." Minutes later, a small shuttle detached from the Eclipse and headed toward Laura's cruiser. As it approached, the crew prepared for the worst, arming themselves just in case. When the airlock hissed open and Carter stepped aboard, everyone tensed. He was tall, with sharp features and an air of quiet authority. Behind him stood two escorts, both wearing sleek, futuristic uniforms that looked far more advanced than anything Earth had. Carter raised a hand in greeting, his expression unreadable. "Captain Hayes," he said smoothly, "thank you for agreeing to speak with me." Laura gestured for him to follow her to a private conference room, where Ryan and Megan joined them. Once seated, Carter wasted no time getting to the point. "The Eclipse belongs to a faction of humanity that left Earth centuries ago," he began. "We sought refuge in deep space after your leaders failed to address the chaos and corruption plaguing your world. Over time, we evolved, both our people and our technology. Now, we've returned to reclaim Earth and unite humanity under one banner." Megan leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "Reclaim Earth. What gives you the right?" Carter's gaze hardened slightly. "The right comes from necessity. Humanity is fractured, weak, and vulnerable. Under our leadership, you will become stronger, better. Resistance is futile." Ryan scoffed, earning a sharp look from Laura. "You talk about unity," Ryan said, his tone laced with sarcasm, "but sending drones to spy on us doesn't exactly scream trust." Carter didn't flinch. "I assure you, Lieutenant, we only act out of caution. Centuries of isolation have taught us to be wary of outsiders, even those who share our origins." Laura studied him carefully, searching for any sign of deception. For now, his story seemed plausible, but there were too many unanswered questions. "If your intentions are peaceful," she said slowly, "why didn't you announce yourselves sooner? Why appear uninvited and unexplained?" Carter's lips curved into a faint smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Because we knew how you would react. Fear, suspicion, hostility. It's human nature. But rest assured, Captain, our goals are noble. Whether you choose to cooperate or resist is entirely up to you." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Laura felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Whatever choice she made next would shape not only her crew's fate, but possibly the future of Earth itself. After the meeting with Commander Alex Carter, Laura Hayes returned to the bridge, her mind racing. The man's words echoed in her head. "Our goals are noble." But noble didn't always mean good. She glanced at her crew, who were whispering among themselves, their faces tense, Lieutenant Ryan Cole was pacing near his station, muttering under his breath. Megan Doyle sat at her console, typing furiously, trying to make sense of the data they had gathered from the drones. "Captain," Megan said suddenly, breaking the silence, "I've been analyzing the scans those drones took of us. They're not just mapping our ship, they're looking for something specific, like weaknesses." Laura frowned. "What kind of weaknesses?" Megan hesitated, scrolling through lines of code on her screen. "It's hard to say for sure, but it looks like they're focusing on our engines and life support systems. If they wanted to disable us, they'd know exactly where to strike." Ryan stopped pacing and turned to face Laura. "That doesn't sound like a peaceful mission to me. These people aren't here to negotiate. They're planning an attack." Laura rubbed her temples, feeling the pressure mounting. She didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the evidence was stacking up. Carter's calm demeanor and vague answers had left her uneasy. His talk of uniting humanity sounded noble, but his methods felt more like domination than cooperation. Still, she needed more information before making any decisions. "Megan, keep digging into the data," Laura ordered. "See if you can find anything else about their technology or their intentions. Ryan, I want you to monitor their movements. If that ship so much as twitches, I want to know about it." As the crew got to work, Laura stepped into her private quarters to think. She stared out the small window at the eclipse, its massive form looming against the backdrop of stars. It was beautiful, in a way, sleek and powerful, but also terrifying. What did Carter mean by reclaiming Earth? And why now, after centuries of absence? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Megan, holding a tablet. "Captain, I found something you need to see." Laura gestured for her to come in. Megan placed the tablet on the desk, showing a series of diagrams and schematics. "This is what the drones were transmitting back to the eclipse. Look at these energy signatures. They're off the charts. Their power source isn't anything we've ever seen before. It's advanced, way beyond us." "That explains how they stayed hidden for so long," Laura murmured. "If their tech is that far ahead of ours, we're at a serious disadvantage." Megan nodded. "But there's more. I cross-referenced their scans with our own systems. They're not just studying us. They're testing us, seeing how we react, what we're capable of. It's like they're sizing us up." Laura's stomach tightened. "You think they're planning something bigger?" "I don't think. They're definitely planning something," Megan replied firmly. "And whatever it is, it's not going to end well for us." The two women exchanged a worried glance. Laura knew they couldn't sit idly by while Carter and his crew plotted their next move. But confronting them directly could provoke a fight they weren't ready for. She needed to buy time, to gather more intel and warn Earth about the threat. Back on the bridge, Laura called a quick meeting with her senior officers. "Listen up," she said, her voice steady despite the unease gnawing at her. "We're dealing with a highly advanced enemy, one that sees us as inferior. We can't trust them, and we can't let them catch us off guard. From now on, everyone stays alert. No unnecessary risks." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "So what's the plan, Captain? Do we fight or run?" Laura took a deep breath. "Neither, for now. We play along, keep them talking, and look for an opening. But if things go south, we'll be ready." As the crew dispersed to their stations, Laura turned her gaze back to the eclipse. She didn't know what Carter's true motives were, but one thing was clear. Humanity's future depended on stopping him. And she wasn't about to let him win without a fight. Laura Hayes knew time was running out. The eclipse loomed in the distance, its presence a constant reminder of the danger they faced. She sat in her chair on the bridge, staring at the screen that showed the massive warship. Her crew worked quietly around her, each person focused on their tasks. But the tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating. "Captain," Megan Doyle said, breaking the silence, "I've been going over the data again. There's something off about their energy readings. It's not just advanced, it's unstable." Laura turned to face her. Unstable. What do you mean? Megan hesitated, tapping a few keys on her console. It's like their power source is pushing beyond its limits. If they keep using it the way they are, it could overload. But if that happens, she trailed off, her expression grim. It could take out half the planet. Ryan Cole finished for her, his voice sharp with alarm. He had been listening in, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. So we're dealing with a ticking bomb as well as a hostile ship. It's possible, Megan admitted, but we can't be sure until we get closer. Laura nodded slowly. Then we need to find a way to disable them before it's too late. But how do we do that without starting a war? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Everyone knew the stakes were high. If they acted too soon, they risked provoking Carter into attacking. But waiting too long could give him the chance to carry out whatever plan he had for Earth. Later that day, Laura decided to reach out to Carter again. She sent a message requesting another meeting, hoping to buy more time and gather information. To her surprise, he agreed almost immediately. When the transmission came through, his tone was calm but firm. Captain Hayes, I assume you have questions. Let's talk. This time, the meeting took place aboard the Eclipse. Laura, Ryan, and Megan stepped onto the sleek shuttle that would take them to the warship. As they approached, the scale of the vessel became even more apparent. It was enormous, dwarfing their own cruiser. The surface gleamed under the light of distant stars, and the airlock opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the Eclipse was unlike anything they had ever seen. The corridors were wide and brightly lit, lined with smooth metallic walls that seemed to pulse faintly with energy. Carter greeted them with a polite smile, though his eyes remained cold. "Welcome aboard," he said, gesturing for them to follow him. They were led to a large conference room, where holographic displays floated in the air, showing maps of Earth and various star systems. Carter stood at the center, his hands clasped behind his back. "You wanted to speak with me, Captain Hayes. What is it you wish to know?" Laura chose her words carefully. "Commander Carter, your arrival has caused concern among my people. We need to understand your intentions. If you truly seek peace, then prove it." Carter's smile didn't waver, but there was a flicker of impatience in his gaze. "My intentions are clear. Humanity must evolve, and we are here to guide that evolution. Resistance will only delay the inevitable." Ryan stepped forward, his voice rising. "And what happens to those who resist? Do you just wipe them out?" Carter's expression hardened. "We prefer cooperation, but history has taught us that force is sometimes necessary. Rest assured, we will do what must be done." Laura felt a chill run down her spine. His words confirmed her worst fears. This wasn't about unity. It was about control. She glanced at Megan, who subtly nodded, signaling she had gathered enough intel to analyze later. "We'll consider your offer," Laura said diplomatically, though her mind was already racing with plans. As they left the Eclipse, Ryan muttered under his breath, "That guy's a snake. We can't trust him." Back on their ship, Laura called an emergency meeting with her crew. "We need a strategy," she said firmly. "Carter's patience won't last forever. If we want to stop him, we'll have to strike first, and hit hard." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed her words. They all knew the risks, but one thing was certain: doing nothing wasn't an option. The mood on Laura Hayes' ship was tense as the crew gathered in the briefing room. The walls were lined with monitors displaying maps of Earth and the Eclipse, their glowing screens casting faint light over the worried faces of the crew. Laura stood at the front, her arms crossed, her expression serious. She knew they were running out of time. "All right," she began, her voice steady but firm. "We've seen what Carter's capable of. He's not here to negotiate. He's here to conquer. If we don't act now, Earth won't stand a chance." Megan Doyle sat at the table, her tablet open in front of her. She had spent hours analyzing the data they'd collected from the Eclipse. "I found something important," she said, looking up at Laura. "Their power core. It's unstable, Like I said before. But there's more. It's linked directly to their weapon systems. If we can disable the core, we might be able to shut down the entire ship. Ryan Cole leaned forward, his brow furrowed. That sounds risky. How do we even get close enough to hit it? Their defenses are too strong. Laura nodded. It won't be easy. But Megan, you said their scans focused on our engines and life support, right? What if we use that against them? Megan's eyes lit up as she caught on. You mean, make them think we're weaker than we are? Exactly, Laura replied. We'll fake a malfunction in our systems, make them believe we're vulnerable. Then, while they're distracted, we send a small team to infiltrate the eclipse and sabotage the core. Ryan frowned, shaking his head. That's a suicide mission. Even if we get aboard, how do we fight their soldiers? They're stronger and faster than us. We don't fight them, Laura said firmly. We sneak in, plant explosives, and get out before they know what's happening. Speed and stealth, that's our advantage. The room fell silent as the crew processed the plan. It was dangerous, almost reckless, but no one could deny the logic behind it. If they succeeded, they might have a chance to stop the eclipse. If they failed, well, none of them wanted to think about that. Later that night, Megan stayed up late in the engineering bay, working on a way to fake the malfunction. She rigged a series of circuits to mimic the signs of an engine failure, ensuring the eclipse sensors would detect it. Meanwhile, Ryan trained a small team of volunteers for the infiltration mission. Each person chosen was skilled, quick-thinking, and willing to risk everything for the mission. When morning came, the crew gathered on the bridge. Laura gave the order to initiate the plan. Let's sell this malfunction, she said, her voice calm but determined. Make them believe we're helpless. As the fake engine failure triggered, alarms blared across the eclipse. Carter's voice crackled through the comms. Captain Hayes, your ship appears to be experiencing difficulties. Shall we offer assistance? Laura forced herself to sound panicked. Negative, Commander. We're trying to stabilize our systems. Please maintain distance. Carter's response was smooth, almost smug. Very well. But if your situation worsens, don't hesitate to call. Once the transmission ended, Laura turned to her team. This is it. Stick to the plan and stay sharp. The infiltration team boarded a small shuttle and launched toward the eclipse. As they approached, the massive warship loomed ahead, its surface gleaming ominously. Megan monitored their progress from the cruiser, her hands trembling slightly as she guided them past the ship's sensors. Inside the eclipse, the team moved cautiously through dimly lit corridors. The air felt heavy, charged with energy. Every step echoed, and every shadow seemed to hide danger. They'd reached the reactor room without incident, but as they planted the explosives, alarms suddenly blared. They know we're here, one of the team members whispered urgently. Laura's voice came through their earpieces. Move fast, get out of there now. The team sprinted back toward the shuttle, dodging patrols of Carter's soldiers. Shots rang out, and the sound of footsteps grew louder. Just as they reached the docking bay, Ryan fired a few rounds to cover their escape. Go, 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 he shouted. The shuttle launched just as the explosives detonated, sending a shockwave through the eclipse. Back on the cruiser, the crew watched as the warship's lights flickered and died. For a moment, it seemed like they had won. But then, a single message came through from Carter. You've made a grave mistake, Captain Hayes. His voice was cold, filled with fury. The explosion aboard the Eclipse sent a ripple of hope through Laura Hayes' crew. For a moment, it felt like they had struck a decisive blow against Carter and his warship. The massive vessel drifted silently in space, its lights dimmed, its power core seemingly crippled. But Laura knew better than to celebrate too soon. Her gut told her that Carter wasn't the kind of man who gave up easily. Status report, she ordered sharply, her eyes fixed on the screen showing the damaged Eclipse. Megan Doyle was already typing furiously at her console. The blast hit their reactor. But, Captain, I'm picking up residual energy readings. Their systems aren't completely down. Ryan Cole frowned, turning to face Laura. You think they're still operational? I don't know, Laura admitted. But we can't assume they're out of the fight. Keep scanning them, Megan, and prepare for the worst. As if on cue, the comms crackled to life. Commander Alex Carter's voice came through, cold and menacing. Captain Hayes, your actions have consequences. You've damaged our ship, but you've also sealed your fate. Laura's jaw tightened. She gripped the edge of her chair as she responded. Carter, this doesn't have to end in bloodshed. Stand down, and we can find a way to resolve this peacefully. Carter's laugh was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. Peace. You misunderstand me, Captain. We are here to bring order, not chaos. Your resistance only proves how far humanity has fallen. If you will not join us willingly, then you leave us no choice. Before Laura could respond, the Eclipse began to stir. Its engines roared back to life, glowing faintly as power surged through its systems. The ship turned slowly, its weapons arrays coming online. A deep hum filled the air as energy built up along its surface. They're powering up, Megan shouted, panic creeping into her voice. They're targeting us. Laura acted quickly. Evasive maneuvers. Get us out of range. The cruiser jolted as its engines flared to life, twisting away from the Eclipse. Behind them, a barrage of energy blasts tore through space, narrowly missing their ship. The bridge shook violently, and alarms blared as the crew scrambled to stabilize their vessel. We can't outrun them, Ryan yelled over the noise. Their weapons are faster and more powerful than ours. Laura clenched her fists, her mind racing. They had gambled everything on disabling the Eclipse, but now it seemed they had only angered Carter further. The warship loomed closer, relentless and unstoppable. Megan, is there any way to disrupt their targeting systems? I'm trying. Megan stammered, her fingers flying across the console. If I can overload their sensors with static, it might give us a few seconds to escape. Do it, Laura ordered. And someone get Earth Command on the line. We need reinforcements. Now. Moments later, Megan activated the interference signal. A burst of electromagnetic noise flooded the space around them, momentarily blinding the Eclipse sensors. The enemy fire ceased as the warship paused to recalibrate. Now's our chance. Laura shouted, "Jump to hyperspace." The cruiser's engines screamed as the ship accelerated, leaving behind streaks of light. The Eclipse tried to follow, but the interference had bought them just enough time to slip away. As they entered the safety of hyperspace, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. But Laura didn't share their relief. She stared at the empty screen where the Eclipse had been moments before. Carter's words echoed in her mind. You've sealed your fate. He won't stop, she muttered under her breath. Turning to her crew, she added, this isn't over. Carter's still out there, and he'll come after us, and Earth, with everything he's got. We need to warn them, and we need to be ready. Ryan nodded grimly. Then what's the plan, Captain? Laura took a deep breath, her expression resolute. We regroup. We gather every resource we can, and when Carter comes for us again, we'll be waiting. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but nodded in agreement. They all knew the battle ahead would be harder than anything they'd faced before, but one thing was certain, giving up wasn't an option, not while there was still hope left. The cruiser dropped out of hyperspace near a secret United Nations Space Command, UNSC, outpost on the edge of the solar system. It was a small, hidden station built into the side of an asteroid, designed to avoid detection. Laura Hayes ordered her crew to dock immediately. The outpost wasn't much, but it was their best chance to regroup and plan their next move. As they entered the station, General Jack Monroe greeted them. He was a tall, grizzled man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His voice carried authority as he spoke. Captain Hayes, we received your distress signal. What's going on? Laura wasted no time. She explained everything: the eclipse, Commander Carter's demands, and the failed sabotage attempt. Carter's ship is damaged, but not destroyed. He's still coming for Earth, and we don't have much time. Monroe's expression hardened. We've been preparing for this kind of threat, but I didn't think it would come from our own kind. He turned to his officers. Activate all defense protocols. Get every available ship ready for deployment. And start evacuating civilians from major cities. They'll be the first targets. While Monroe organized Earth's defenses, Laura and her crew worked with scientists at the outpost to study the data Megan had gathered from the eclipse. The engineers pored over schematics, trying to understand how the warship's advanced technology worked. If they could find another weakness, they might stand a chance in the next battle. Meanwhile, Private Daniel Ross was busy training new recruits. A young soldier with a strong sense of duty, Daniel had volunteered for the USC after hearing about the eclipse's arrival. He wasn't experienced, but his determination inspired those around him. We can't let them win, he told his squad during a drill. If they think we're weak, we'll prove them wrong. Back in the command center, Laura met with Megan and Ryan to review the latest findings. Megan pointed to a diagram on the screen. Their power core is still unstable. Even though they repaired it, it's still a weak point. If we hit it again, we might be able to finish them off. Ryan frowned. But how do we get close enough? Last time nearly got us killed. Laura thought for a moment. We'll need a distraction. Something big enough to draw their attention while a strike team hits the core. Megan nodded. What if we use one of our older ships? We could rig it to explode on impact, like a giant bomb. It would take out some of their weapons and give us an opening. It's risky, Laura admitted, but it might work. As the hours passed, preparations moved quickly. Engineers worked tirelessly to modify an old cruiser, filling it with explosives. Pilots ran simulations, practicing maneuvers they hoped would keep them alive. Everyone knew the odds were against them, but no one gave up. General Monroe approached Laura later that evening. We've sent word to Earth's leaders. They're mobilizing every resource we have, from outdated ships to experimental weapons. But Captain, you need to know something. Laura looked at him, sensing the seriousness in his tone. What is it? Monroe hesitated before speaking. Commander Carter's people, they've been watching us for years. Spies embedded in our systems, gathering intel. That's how they knew where to find us. Some of our own may have helped them. Laura felt a chill run down her spine. Betrayal from within made the fight even harder. Then we'll root them out, she said firmly, no matter what it takes. By morning, the fleet was ready. Ships of all sizes lined up in formation, their crews prepared for battle. Laura stood on the bridge of her cruiser, looking out at the Armada. It wasn't much compared to the eclipse, but it was all they had. Let's finish this, she said quietly, her voice filled with resolve. As the fleet set course for Earth, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Carter was out there, waiting. And when they faced him again, it would be a fight to the death, for humanity's survival. The battle began with a deafening roar as Earth's fleet emerged from hyperspace near the planet's orbit. The eclipse loomed ahead, its sleek form bristling with weapons that glowed ominously. Smaller escort ships flanked it, forming a protective barrier. Laura Hayes clenched her fists as she watched the scene unfold on her ship's monitors. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. Stay in formation, Laura ordered, her voice steady despite the tension gripping her chest. Remember the plan. Hold your positions until the decoy ship reaches the target. The old cruiser, rigged with explosives, surged forward, its engines blazing. Piloted remotely, it charged straight toward the eclipse, drawing fire from the enemy fleet. Energy blasts erupted around it, lighting up the darkness of space. The decoy ship took several hits but held together, inching closer to its goal. Almost there, Megan Doyle whispered, her eyes glued to the screen tracking the cruiser's progress. Her hands hovered over the controls, ready to detonate the explosives at the right moment. Commander Alex Carter's voice crackled through the comms, cold and mocking. "You think such a desperate tactic will stop us? You underestimate our strength." Laura ignored him, focusing on the mission. "Megan, now." With a press of a button, the decoy ship exploded in a brilliant burst of light. The shockwave tore through the Eclipse's escorts, destroying several of them instantly. The warship itself rocked violently as fragments of debris pelted its surface. For a brief moment, the enemy's weapons fell silent. "Now," Laura shouted. Earth's fleet seized the opportunity, launching a coordinated attack. Fighters swarmed around the Eclipse, firing missiles and energy beams. Larger ships targeted the warship's weakened sections, trying to breach its defenses. Explosions lit up the void as both sides exchanged fire. Amid the chaos, Private Daniel Ross proved his worth. Flying a small fighter craft, he maneuvered with skill far beyond his experience. When an enemy squadron threatened to break through the fleet's lines, Daniel acted quickly. He lured them into a trap, leading them into a hail of fire from Allied ships. One by one, the enemy fighters were destroyed, leaving Daniel's comrades safe. For now. On the bridge of Laura's cruiser, Ryan Cole barked orders to the gunners. "Focus on their weapon arrays. Take out as many as you can." The crew worked tirelessly, their movements precise and determined. They'd managed to disable several of the Eclipse's guns, but the warship's sheer size made it nearly impossible to cripple completely. Its remaining weapons continued to fire, tearing through Earth's smaller ships with devastating accuracy. "We're losing too many," Ryan growled, frustration evident in his voice. "We can't keep this up forever." Laura knew he was right. Their forces were outnumbered and outgunned. But surrender wasn't an option. "Keep pushing," she said firmly. "We got one shot at this. Don't let up." As the battle raged on, Megan spotted something critical. "Captain, I'm reading increased activity near their core. It's destabilizing again, just like before." Laura's heart raced. If they could hit the core while it was vulnerable, they might stand a chance. "Ryan, prepare a strike team. We're going aboard the Eclipse." Ryan stared at her, disbelief written across his face. "Are you serious? That's suicide." "It's our only chance," Laura replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. "We'll take a shuttle, sneak past their defenses, and finish what we started." Without waiting for further debate, Laura gathered her team. As they launched toward the Eclipse, the massive warship loomed closer, its surface scarred from the battle but still deadly. Alarms blared inside the shuttle as enemy fire narrowly missed them. "This is insane," one of the team members muttered under their breath. Laura glanced back, her expression resolute. "Maybe, but if we don't do this, Earth falls." They docked on the Eclipse and moved cautiously through its corridors. Every step brought them closer to the reactor room, and to Commander Carter, who was surely waiting for them. The final confrontation was inevitable. And when it came, Laura knew it would decide the fate of humanity. The corridors of the Eclipse were eerily quiet as Laura Hayes and her team moved cautiously toward the reactor room. The air felt heavy, charged with tension. Every shadow seemed to hide danger, and every sound made them flinch. Megan Doyle led the way, her tablet showing a map of the ship's interior. "We're close," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "Just around the next corner." Ryan Cole tightened his grip on his weapon, his eyes scanning the dimly lit hallway. "Stay sharp," he muttered. "They know we're here." As they rounded the corner, a group of Carter's soldiers appeared, their uniforms sleek and futuristic. They moved with unnatural speed, their weapons raised. Shots rang out, filling the corridor with flashes of light. Laura's team ducked for cover, returning fire as best they could. "We can't hold them off forever," Ryan shouted, firing another burst from his rifle. Laura nodded, her mind racing. "Megan, plant the charges. We'll cover you." Megan scrambled forward, dropping to one knee near the reactor's control panel. Her fingers flew across the keypad, bypassing security protocols. Behind her, Laura and Ryan fired steadily, forcing the enemy back. One by one, the soldiers fell, but more kept coming. Finally, Megan looked up. "Charges are set. We've got 3 minutes before detonation. Let's move," Laura ordered, pulling Megan to her feet. The team retreated quickly, retracing their steps through the maze-like corridors. But as they neared the docking bay, they were met with an unexpected obstacle: Commander Alex Carter himself. Carter stood blocking their path, his arms crossed and a cold smile on his face. "Captain Hayes," he said smoothly, "did you really think you could stop us?" Laura stepped forward, her weapon aimed at him. "It's not too late, Carter. Stand down, and we can end this without more bloodshed." Carter chuckled darkly. "You still don't understand, do you? Humanity is broken, weak. We offer salvation, a new beginning. If you won't join us willingly, then you'll be swept aside." Ryan raised his weapon higher. "You're insane. Your salvation is domination. That's not unity. It's tyranny." Carter's smile faded, replaced by a steely glare. "Then you leave me no choice." He gestured behind him, and more soldiers emerged, surrounding the team. Laura's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. "If this is how it ends, then so be it. But know this, we'll never stop fighting you." For a moment, everything seemed frozen. Then, without warning, Carter lunged forward, moving faster than anyone thought possible. His fist connected with Ryan's jaw, sending him sprawling. Laura fired a shot, but Carter dodged effortlessly, closing the distance between them in seconds. The two clashed, exchanging blows in a desperate struggle. Carter was stronger, faster, but Laura fought with sheer determination. She managed to land a solid hit, staggering him briefly. Seizing the opportunity, she grabbed a fallen soldier's weapon and fired point-blank, striking Carter in the chest. He stumbled back, his expression one of shock and anger. "You don't know what you've done," he gasped, sinking to his knees. "We stopped you," Laura replied firmly, stepping away. "That's all that matters." A loud alarm blared through the ship, signaling the impending explosion. "We need to go, now," Megan shouted. The team sprinted toward the shuttle, leaping aboard just as the first tremors shook the Eclipse. As they launched into space, the warship erupted in a massive explosion, lighting up the darkness like a second sun. Back on Laura's cruiser, the crew watched in silence as the wreckage drifted apart. For the first time in days, there was a sense of relief, but also sadness. Too many lives had been lost, and the scars of battle would linger. Laura stared at the screen, her thoughts heavy. They had won, but at great cost, and deep down, she knew humanity's struggles were far from over. The Eclipse was gone, its massive form reduced to drifting debris in the vast emptiness of space. Laura Hayes stood on the bridge of her cruiser, staring at the remnants of the once mighty warship. The battle had been won, but the victory felt hollow. Too many lives had been lost, both among her crew and on Earth, and the scars of the conflict would take years to heal. General Jack Monroe's voice came through the comms, breaking the silence. "Captain Hayes, Earth Command confirms the threat is neutralized." "Well done." Laura nodded, though she knew he couldn't see her. "Thank you, General. But this isn't the end. Carter's people were just one faction. There may be others out there like them." Monroe's tone grew somber. "We'll deal with that when it comes. For now, focus on getting your crew home. You've earned it." As the transmission ended, Laura turned to her team. Megan Doyle sat at her console, her face pale but relieved. Ryan Cole leaned against a wall, nursing a bruised jaw, but otherwise unharmed. Both had risked everything to ensure humanity's survival. Laura felt a surge of pride and gratitude. "We did it," she said quietly, addressing the crew. "Against all odds, we stopped them. But let's not forget why we fought. We didn't do this for glory or revenge. We did it to protect our home, and everyone on it." Her words hung in the air, met with nods and murmurs of agreement. The crew had seen the worst of what humanity could become in Carter and his followers. But they had also witnessed the best, the courage, resilience, and unity that defined them as a species. Back on Earth, the survivors began the long process of rebuilding. Cities scarred by the eclipse's attacks slowly came back to life, their streets filled with determination rather than despair. General Monroe spearheaded efforts to strengthen Earth's defenses, ensuring that humanity would never again be caught off guard. Scientists worked tirelessly to study the wreckage of the eclipse, hoping to learn from its advanced technology while avoiding its dangers. Private Daniel Ross became a symbol of hope for many. His bravery during the battle inspired countless others to join the UNSC, eager to defend their world. Though still young and inexperienced, Daniel carried himself with newfound confidence, knowing he had made a difference. For Laura, the aftermath was bittersweet. She had saved Earth, but the cost weighed heavily on her. In quiet moments, she thought about Commander Carter and his vision of a better humanity. Was it truly wrong to strive for improvement, or had Carter simply gone too far, sacrificing morality for power? One evening, as her ship drifted near Earth's orbit, Laura stepped onto the observation deck. The planet below glowed softly, its blue and green hues a reminder of everything worth fighting for. Megan joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You did good, Captain," Megan said, handing her a cup. "Not just today, but all of it." Laura smiled faintly. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. Humanity survived because we stuck together. Megan nodded, sipping her coffee. "Do you think we'll ever see something like this again? Another faction trying to take over?" "Probably," Laura admitted. "But if they do, we'll be ready." Humanity has a way of rising to the occasion, even when the odds seem impossible. They stood in silence for a while, watching Earth spin peacefully below. Despite everything they had faced, there was still beauty in the universe, and still hope for the future. Laura knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she also knew one thing for certain. As long as people cared enough to fight for each other, humanity would endure. And that was enough.